Okay, we're ready?
Yes, we're ready.
We're ready.
Start scheming.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephen Reed. You can call me Steve. My software development career started off with the U.S. Treasury Department back in about the mid-'80s, and I was developing software, Windows software for top-level management and Treasury. And in my spare time, after work and until the wee hours of the morning, I started developing OS2. And I produced a couple of game programs. One, I started off with OS2 Blackjack, and it was released around 1992. Was the first version that was released, and then a couple of years later, I released OS2 Poker, and so it was kind of a, corresponding with the releases of the operating system when OS2 2.0 came out, and then of course. We all know about the 3 and then Warp and so forth. And what really got me interested, I decided to do a rewrite of both the poker and the blackjack. The poker is completed, blackjack's not started. What happened was I had my software for sale on eBay, and something kind of made me search for OS2. I was looking for maybe user groups or who's out there that runs OS2 today? Is there anybody? And I ran across this operating system called Arca OS, and so back around March, I kind of started to decide to redesign and redo OS2 Poker and modernize the graphics and the screens and so on. So today, I'm going to take everybody through kind of an evolution. We're going to start with the first version of Poker, take and run through that. Then we're going to go into the second version of Poker, and we'll talk about kind of a high-level discussion. Some of you offline, I've kind of had a little discussion about the history of it and what's changed and so forth. But anyway, let's get started. This is the first version of OS2 Poker. This was released in 1994. I'm going to put this up to full screen. Basically, what you're seeing here is a video poker game that plays kind of two types of poker. Is everybody familiar with video poker? Anybody played video poker?
Like on Vegas or something?
In Las Vegas or in a casino? Okay. So basically, a little bit about video poker. Basically, you're dealt 5 cards, okay, and you can choose to hold one of them or all of them. And the idea is to hold cards that pay you the most amount of credits, okay? So, of course, you want to win. So, in this case, it's set for jacks or better. So, if I'm dealt, I'm going to bet 5 coins. If I'm dealt a pair of jacks, which I am, I'm going to hold those. Jacks or better is going to return my 5 coins, okay? So another option with this is you can, I can do it where it's any pair. So here, instead of jacks or better, any pair I'm dealt counts as a pair and pays. And so in this case, you're getting in video poker like this with any pair. This is you're getting your bet back return on the bottom here. 2 pair is 10, 15 for 3 of a kind, a straight and a flush. We go up to there, and a 4 of a kind is 125. And of course the granddaddy of all payoffs, the royal flush, is 4,000. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the 2 jacks and deal and see what I get. So we did get a pair there, and so this original poker game had just jacks or better, and it had any pair in there. You'll see in version 2 how that's changed. Some of the options we can go into that it keeps, or we can choose some different screen styles here. This one's called Las Vegas. It's a little hard to see We got the sun on the screen here. This one's Atlantic City. And so they're all kind of some color schemes named after some worldwide casino locations. London. Another feature in here is the statistics. Let's take a look at that real quick. And we'll talk about the top part there, as you see, is video poker. So I played 2 hands, bet 10, won nothing. The bottom part's an interactive play. So this is really 2 games within 1 game. And you'll see in a moment when I bring up the interactive play and how that works. So let's take a look at game and then interactive. So here, this is a little different flavor because what you're doing is you're playing for points against the dealer's hand. Okay, so you'll earn points depending on the rank of your hand. Like it's 10 points for a pair, 20 for 2 pair, 30 for 3 of a kind, and it goes up to 90 for a royal flush. So essentially this becomes a race to 100 points. So the first person to 100, dealer or player to 100 points is the winner. So I'm going to hold these 2 5s and see what I get. And then the dealer up on top plays its hand out, and so then points are awarded. So right now the dealer's got maybe 20 to 10. So the game keeps going until you get to the first person to 100 in this interactive mode. And as far as the statistics, let's take another look at that. You'll see here, this is the hand we just played. So we played 1 hand. The dealer has 20 points. I have 10. And then this just averages it out among the plays. So, and then these statistics, they can be cleared off if you want to start all over again, or you can save them as well. The next part of the game I want to talk about is the sound here, which we won't hear. It turns around and plays PC kind of speaker sounds in it as the hands are dealt in cards. Remember, this program was written 30 years ago. In fact, if we look at the product information, we see it's 1994 copyright on there. So at the time, this game and my blackjack game became part of IBM's Family Fun Pack. Have you anybody know about that? Yeah. So I also got distribution back then with Indelible Blue Ink. I had Best Buy, Egghead Software, and one other. So it was a lot of fun to write, a lot of distribution, and a lot of activity under OS2. And unfortunately, OS2 died only to be brought back to life by the Arca OS, which I'm running on an Arca OS at 1024 by 768. Okay, so let's take a look at the more modern version and look at some of the differences here, as you'll see. Okay, you can see there's first of all, there's quite a bit more going on in this game. Excuse me. The main difference here with this one is that this offers 3 different types of games. This offers regular jacks or better poker, it offers double-double bonus, and it offers bonus poker. Now, let's take a look at those. Right now, we're set up on what it's called 9-6 jacks or better. It's down on the bottom here. Kind of hard to read with that screen. Anyway, on video poker, it's all about these paybacks and these pay tables here. So jacks or better is kind of generous on the bottom end, where it only takes a pair of jacks to get paid. But if you'll notice on the top end here on a 4 of a kind, I only get 25. let's take a look here at a moment and switch games and go to double bonus, and let's look at this pay table now. Interesting, because all of a sudden we have the same here on the bottom, jacks or better, but when we get up into four of a kinds, that all changes now. In bonus poker, I'm offered to pay a difference in here. And this one, it's any hand that's 5s through kings, okay? And you get 40 for 2 3s and 4s. And 4 aces, all of a sudden you get 80, okay? But the rest of the pays are the same as they were on the other game. Now, looking at double bonus, we see another difference on our payoffs here. And 5s through kings is 50, 2 3s and 4s is 80, aces we go up to there, and here's a real big difference. If you get 4 aces with any 2, 3, or 4, you get 2,000 credits if you bet 5. Another interesting point about video poker in general is take a look at the royal flush here for a minute. If I bet 1 credit, I win 250, then 2. This is 3 credits, 4 credits, or 4 coins if you're in the casino. So for 4 coins, I win 1,000. If I bet 5 coins, I win 4,000. So if you're in a casino, you might want to bet 5 coins. All right, let's take a look at. Let's go ahead and play a couple of hands here. We'll max bet and deal a hand out, and again, with this game you can choose to hold, no cards, hold all 5, whatever you want to do. And I'm trying to make the highest hand, so I'm going to hold the queens and hit deal. And so I won 2 pair, and I won 5 coins back, and that's another thing with double bonus. The difference there, if I would have won 2 pair on bonus, I would have got 10. So it pays you more on the top but less on the bottom. And I guess that's the way the casinos make money, is based on these 2 things right here. This, where it says 6 by the flush and 9 by a full house. And what that means is anytime pay tables are changed, or somebody says the machine is tight or it's loose, the only thing that changes is these 2 pays here. So the flush and the full house, the higher these numbers are, the better you're getting paid. And I guess we just went into a little enticing demo there. It kind of stops and deals a royal flush and tries to entice me to play 5 credits again, which I'll do, and deal another hand. So here I've got some spades, so I'm going to go ahead and hold four of the spades and try to get a flush, which I didn't get. Some of the other options in this game are interesting in terms of casino-like things or video poker-like things, like the speed of the game. So if I turn this up faster, watch how fast the difference is on the deal. And in real video poker machines, you have control over the deal speed and your choice of game and how much you bet. And so this is essentially what this is supposed to do, is to kind of mimic if you were looking down at the screen of a video poker machine. Down on the bottom, you got your hold buttons, your deal buttons, and so forth. And the yellow buttons here are what would be actually on the screen. So the person can touch those, and so if they want to deal another hand, let me hold these 5s. And if they want to deal another hand, they can actually touch the screen. Another way to play is, instead of using the hold buttons, you can click cards to hold them. So if I want to cancel that, I just click the card again, or I can use the buttons to do it as well. So I got a choice of how to hold the cards. And of course, this here is the sound, to turn the sound off and on. Up here on options, we've got, again, statistics. Take a look at that. Played 4 hands, bet 20, and we're still at 1,000, so we're dead even. And these, you could save these off if you're, someone that wants to keep track of your play. I can choose to save off the statistics, or I can clear them off, or just close it up if I want to not look at them again. Pretty much everything on the game is saved as you choose it, except for statistics. So in other words, if I choose a different color scheme on the game, for example, let's do this one. When I quit this program, it's going to save the amount of credits that I had in play. It'll save my settings for my speed, my sound, pretty much everything, except for stats is automatically saved. The other thing is I have a choice of card backs. Right now I got red. I'm going to switch over to blue and deal another hand. Take a look at those. So the big difference between this, beside graphics, is that I offer 3 different types of games. As I said, jacks are better, bonus poker, double bonus. And so this, you can turn the sound on from up here. You can use that button down there. And if you run out of credits or you want to replenish your supply, once a hand is over or prior to dealing another hand, you can go into this dialog box and pick and choose and, kind of what you want to set it for and hit OK. So now I got myself 4,000 credits to play on, and so forth. Let's take a look at, let's try to look at betting one at a time. One of the differences here on this game versus the original game is this animation. You'll notice for the window that's up on top there that shows all these pay tables, it animates itself. So if I bet 1 credit at a time, it moves over. However, I don't. If you notice, if I deal another hand and bet max, watch it animate itself all the way across really quick. And so the other thing that's going on here is the cards themselves are sized based on a resolution of the graphics resolution that's being run on the game. So that's kind of a change to it as well. And we found out that the graphics resolutions on these modern computers, it's allowing 2400 by 1900. It sort of changed the way images are drawn, and so I've got some code in there that I use, kind of some algorithms that take and some factors into play in terms of how to generate those cards and make them a certain size, and it's all based on graphics resolution, and so it's independent of the video drivers, and so you could run a choice of video drivers, I guess, but still have the same cards. And this one here, product information, we see we got a copyright from 93. I released it in 94 and been copyrighted in 22. This game is close to being ready for release. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to do a formal official release of the game, but it's coming. For a moment, I think if I have more time, I think I'm going to take everybody back in time here again, and let's take a look at the this is the original blackjack program, version 1.0, that was released with the IBM Family Fun Pack, among other places. I don't know how many out here have played blackjack in the casino. Anybody? So everybody kind of has an idea about the game. It starts off and allows you to pick out, because like every casino has different rules. So in this case, it allows me to pick up some different rules where I can have the dealer hit soft 17s. I can choose from 1, 2, 4, 6, or 8 decks of cards. Some casinos deal with 8 and this and that. And so here I can choose double down after split, surrender. This shuffle point is basically a function of where the cut card would be placed in the shoe, if you will. So for now, I'm going to leave it just as it is, a single deck. So it's allowing me to enter a bankroll. We'll give it some money there. We'll make a first bet. Let me get this up to full screen. And so, so it's a typical blackjack. You know, you make a bet. You're dealt some cards, and you got to figure out what you want to do. In this case, I'm going to go ahead. I have an 11. I'm going to go ahead and double down. So I'd get one more card and lost. And so we'll deal another hand. And if you just hit deal, it's going to keep the same bet. If you finish a hand and want to change your bet, you can do that by simply just clicking on the screen and say if I want to bet 100, I can do that. And here I'm just going to go ahead and stand on that 12. Since this game was developed in the 90s, there's a lot of things that I'm going to be working on to change its graphics and cards and kind of update the screen, and a lot's going to be added to it, but that's to come.
You wrote this also?
Yes.
Blackjack?
Yes. So I started off with the redo of poker, and recently completed that. This is the original blackjack version that's been for sale for 30 years, and this is not updated at all, although it runs natively just fine under Arca OS. Let's take a look at some of the options in here and some things we could do. If anybody's thirsty while they're playing, you can order yourself a drink, have a beer, some wine, a mixed drink. You know, let's get one of those. And so it draws a drink on the screen, and every once in a while you'll see the glass will kind of go down as we get more thirsty. But we'll play a couple more hands and wait and see what it does. So I can also, let's get into that once. That should be fun.
As the glass goes down, does your playing change?
Well, that's up to you. It could. Everybody thinks that's why the casinos serve you a drink, so they can trick you into playing bad, and the reality is that's not the case. The casinos serve alcohol to the players because they control it. What does that mean? That simply means that if someone gets so drunk they're falling on the floor, for that player's protection, they're going to stop them from drinking and get them back up in their room or whatever. So it's actually the opposite, and we already drank half of that. Wow.
So how much time you spend in casinos?
Well, before I started my software development career, I actually was a dealer and a pit boss and a shift boss in some of the Las Vegas casinos. So obviously when I became interested in developing for the OS2 platform, I thought to myself, well, heck, why not write a blackjack program, you know? I mean, it was just kind of a natural, thing for me to do. Let's see if I can get us into something where we can do a little cheating here. And everybody knows what insurance is on blackjack. Okay, basically you're taking half, you can bet up to half your bet to ensure that the dealer doesn't have a blackjack. It's usually a bad bet, so I'm going to say no. And they don't, so I got the full pay on my blackjack, which is 3 to 2, 1.5 to 1. Let's see if we can get us into a cheat here. Oh, okay. Okay, let's cheat here. Let's see if we can see. Let's peek and see what this dealer has under there before we decide to hit. Oh boy, they got 20. I better try to beat it. So, I mean, obviously in a real casino you wouldn't be able to peek at the dealer's card, but since we're not in a real casino and we're on OS2 blackjack, we can do whatever we want.
Does it keep statistics and keep track of how many times you cheat?
No.
There was an old card game on Linux that used to do that, and it was
So
funny
the
'cause
other-
it would show you how many times you cheated.
The other part of so I can look at the dealer's card. I can also peek at the next card to see before I draw a card and see what I'm going to get. See if I bust out on the 12. It's a 5, so I'm going to go ahead and take that 5. So now let's cheat some more, see if the dealer has anything. The dealer has 13, so I'll stop. And it's highlighted, the dealer, when I cheat, the cards are highlighted in red. You can see they got a red border around them. So I can get in there and kind of...
Is it not fun when you cheat that something dramatically happens, like your hard drive?
I'll try to implement that. Maybe you can help me with it.
Put a bet feature in and then you can raise the stakes and lose the game.
Okay, so what else can we do? Well, I don't know anybody knows about card counting, but basically this information that's posted on the screen is a high-level count for blackjack that was developed. We're not going to have another drink. A high-level count that was developed for blackjack back in the late 70s by a man named Ken Houston. Blackjack counters have been, discouraged from playing in casinos. Anyway,
Discouraged?
Discouraged, yes. Yeah, discouraged. Sometimes completely discouraged. You can't play in here anymore.
Yeah, I read a whole book by a guy that did that stuff.
That's probably the one that did this. But anyway, if for those that might be interested in looking at counting cards as they play with this posts the count in running count, true count, and then what they call betting count and the number of aces and so on and so forth. If you're not interested in that feature and you're not a counter, then you don't have to use it. But it's there for those that want, of course, to use it. So let's play one more hand here. So we got a simple 18, and you'll notice though that since the rules allow me to double down on any two cards, so I have a choice here. So I can hit on this, which I won't do because I got 18. I can stand on it, which I probably will do, but it actually allows me to double down. Now, you'd say, well, why would somebody do that? Well, hopefully they wouldn't. But technically speaking, no matter what first two cards you have, you can double down. So this game allows you to make the stupid play and lose twice my money, which is, I got a deuce. That's a miracle. And I didn't rig that. But so basically you're able to, get in here. If I do, let's do some autoplay. Let's let it play by itself for a minute while I'm talking. And this thing plays an autoplay mode. It'll sit and play by itself. You can order a drink and watch it play. And basically it's playing a simple strategy just like the dealer does. So it hits on 16 or below and stands on 17 and above. And so it's not a genius strategy, but it's kind of something relaxing, sit and have a drink and watch it play. So let me go back to a game and new game. And we were talking about these rules here. So now double down, I can double on any first two cards. This is pretty rare, but there's some casinos in northern Nevada that only let you double on 10 or 11. So I have that in there. This you can double down after you have split pairs. If you check this, you can surrender your hand. If you want to play multiple decks, you can pick those out as well. And if you need help with it, it'll go in and click on the help and take a look at what all that means in that dialog box. I'm probably without making any pre-announcements, I'm probably going to simplify that and open up the game where you'll just get to a screen and then just kind of bet. And then for a more advanced user that wants to get into those rules and roll their sleeves up, they can get in there. But for somebody that just wants to get played and started and click buttons, I'll probably change that in the new version, which is about a year away. Okay, so let's close that down. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Any relationship between the IR, did you work for the Treasury Department?
Yes, I did.
And this card flying?
Well, did I with developing the card game? Yes, I did. And outside work for the Treasury Department, you could do it.
Uh-huh.
I had to disclose it. Obviously, it's not a conflict because it's game software, so they don't
When
care.
they found out you were a blackjack dealer, it didn't bother them?
Oh no, they didn't. They knew my history. But yeah, I it's kind of it was rewarding to work for the Treasury Department. Believe it or not, there was a lot of very technical people,
Uh-huh.
highly skilled technicians that worked there, and my role was more to sell the projects to the upper management. So I'd build prototypes on Windows and stuff and say, okay, you got this program and this will do that, and kind of understand their business, which is basically the same thing I did in IBM for consulting is, with OS2 programs to understand their business and, do facilitated user sessions and so on and so forth. Anyway, I think take a moment in terms of the high level. I've talked to some of you offline. The differences from the original version of poker till now with Arca OS is a lot. It's the screens are more eye-catching. I'm able to do a lot of scaling and graphics and run on higher resolutions. I think one of the difficulties of developing or redeveloping the game was quite frankly like a lack of documentation. I had some old documentation that I used, but some of it was, believe it or not, books that were for the beta version of IBM back in '89. So that was pre-version 1.0, so things changed. But websites like EDM2 and so forth, and I had a discussion with Lewis earlier, and I said maybe we should have add more to the developer page on wherever, on the Arca OS website or someplace where we can have a central location for developers to be able to access things like the data structures and the APIs and because it's pretty important if you want to build on Arca OS and you want more users. The best way to get them is develop more applications. That's my opinion.
There is a project to, reproduce, I guess, the documentation for the API for OS2, I think. I don't know.
I did see.
You-
Yeah, but it's like halfway to be finished, and
Yeah.
it's taking a lot of time to.
I mean, I have the original OS2 programming manuals.
Yeah, I do too.
What you do.
Yeah,
But-
yeah. And I had documentation online from one of the developer network CDs
Uh-huh.
that I used. So that's a lot of the things are the same. But when it came time and I can't remember the specifics, but there were some times when I thought, man, I would love to have access to that data structure. I know I'm using it for this call, but I want to extract one of the elements of the structure out for whatever reason, or use it or change it. But what is it? What's it called? And like you'll notice one of the things in the new OS2 video poker, those are custom buttons, the yellow ones. Those are complete from scratch buttons that are written in a Windows program. Well, there's just no documentation for you're supposed to get, if you create a user button, I'm probably getting too technical, but you're supposed to get a BN a button notification. And all the code I wrote and tested and messed around with in little test programs, it's either non-existent or it's the wrong way of extracting it, or in terms of that data structure. But it's important because when the button gets a message to be redrawn, it has to react and know what its old size was, its new size, yada yada yada, its presentation space handle,
You
and
mean the structure you get when you get a button notification?
Mhm.
That's what you're talking about, right?
yeah, and so what I decided to do is go another route. Instead of using the button notifications, I literally wrote a window procedure and created the buttons as a class, and just did everything from scratch, from processing mouse clicks to mouse move to button up and button down and yada yada. I mean, it's a whole, literally, and then you have to draw the button. So, and if it's clicked, that's a different paint, if it's lit up, so there's a lot going on, and I just think you could make life easier for developers in the future if we could have a central repository, whatever you want to call it, with development documentation, and especially with the APIs. So, but anyway, I mean, that's a lot of the differences. I don't want to get too technical into the code, but for animation, I use a lot of timers in it. Windows timers, OS2 timers, which are a limited resource. But I found the best way to handle that is you have to kind of literally just stop all your timers temporarily, then pick up one that you need and kind of toggle back and forth depending on the state you're in with the program, and that way you're not involving 3 or 4 or 5 timers going all at once, and because that's an important resource. I forget what the limit is on timers now. I think it's up to 40 and something like that, but that's system wide. And when you write OS2 programs, you can't make an assumption because your program needs a bunch of timers that no other programs are running on the system that use timers. So it's a limited resource. Anyway,
Just a quick thing. I gather you didn't catch my presentation yesterday.
I did not.
So I don't know if you're aware of this already or taking it into account. In Arca OS, by default, there is an overridden dialog font, which sets the dialog presentation parameter font automatically to 9-point word sounds. However, when you're designing dialogues, if you're doing new development under Arca OS, it's best to turn that off so that you make sure that if somebody changes that font, it's not going to mess up the scaling. So you should generally turn off all dialog font replacement when you're designing new dialogues, and I can show you where to do that.
Is that in config sys?
No, it's in the styler preferences under
Oh,
system setup
okay.
appearance.
I'll take a look at that. As far as the fonts, that's another thing this does, is it uses and does custom fonts that are brought into the program. And you're right, one of the issues is the scaling of that font. Now, on a dialog box, the fonts, my understanding is the dialog box uses dialog coordinates to scale the fonts. So but you can scale fonts on the screen using the font width and height versus X percentage or whatever you're trying to do with your screen coordinates. If you use PU pals in your create PS function.
Broadly speaking, yes. The other thing is that the size of the dialog unit depends on what the system default dialog font is, and that can be changed. And if you design your dialogues using the system default dialog font to measure everything, then everything will match up. If that font is changed, the dialogues will scale to match. It's when you don't do both at the same time that problems happen. On the other hand, if your program allows users to set all of the fonts themselves, in other words, you're assuming responsibility for it, then you can take care of everything, but that's a lot more work.
Let me just open this again real quick. Speaking of the dialogue, just to, okay, so.
So those are,
if-
that's
if-
the system default dialog font there.
So if I, this here?
Yeah, it's,
Actually-
no, sorry, the ones on the buttons.
Oh, yeah.
But if you open a secondary dialog, you'll notice it's not using that font, because the system replacement option is active.
So this here, that pops open after the game's over, it's a dialogue, but it's not. Because that's actually a window.
Okay.
Because you can, I don't know if you've ever tried to do it, but you can define a dialog box in a resource file, and then you can turn around and create a window from it. Then you set window position to do it, and that play 5 credits does the same thing. So that is a dialog as far as the resource compiler is concerned, but there's a flag in there, I think it's called FCF_client, I'd have to look at the code again, that then creates that as a window, but you don't have to call it in your WM size message. In fact, I do it on the fly. So when this demo repeats itself and pops open play 5 credits, I just call set window position again, and it puts it in that position on the screen because it's a window now.
I'd be interested to see how that
So
interacts with
so because it's a window, it's actually using client window credits, or it's using the presentation space, which is in this case pixels or pels. And the font, this here, this is loaded. That font is loaded, and it's actually scaled based on the size, the width and height of that client window that says 5 credits.
That's probably fine. I was actually a little more concerned about the options dialog.
St-
It might have been that one.
Statistics.
Yeah. If you those buttons don't have a lot of empty space around them, which leads me to wonder if we turned off the font replacement, that you might get a bit of clip text on that.
You know, I did have, not this one, but I did have yes, it was this.
And
No.
you'll notice that that's not the same font that the buttons on the main window use.
Oh, no, here, this is the, no, it's not, because that's what I'm saying, is I'm building and loading a custom font, and it's partly outline font, and it's partly image font,
Okay.
and then it's using a GPI path and doing some drawing on them. But as far as the dialogue fonts, one thing I had happen to me where it says select a game and choose OK. Well, when I put this out on this laptop, all of a sudden, you're right, that changed, and it forced me to increase the length of this character string and reposition the radio buttons further over to the X coordinate 0, and also to lengthen the space for each character string as well in the resource file. Because this is a true dialogue, so this is
Yeah.
created loaded on call from the
It's
resource.
mainly dialogues that what I'm saying applies to.
Yeah, I'd like to see what you have to say about that.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I do see.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Any thoughts about other casino games, like roulette?
Well, at this point in time, I'm kind of restarted a project of redoing the blackjack program, which was kind of a long process. I was talking to Neil about, basically I had lost all the source code in terms of everything but paper copy. So I have, well, because the source code at the time I thought was pretty safe putting on 1.44 megabyte floppies.
Seemed like a good
And
idea.
how did I know that 30 years later I go, I need this? Well, the good news was poker, I got that source code off the floppy, but the blackjack floppy died. And I tried everything to extract it, short of calling one of these companies and spending 10 grand to do it. So I thought, okay, but I had paper copies of it, I had printouts of it, and I'll be damned. When I printed them, some of the pages were, the code was just cut off and truncated. So finally I get all this code typed in, I don't know, 8,000 lines of code or whatever blackjack is, typed in, and so now it's truncated. So now I had to go in and reverse engineer all the missing code, which I got to that finally. And finally, just about a week maybe before I came here, I finally got a first build of it up and running. Of course, there's issues with, things. But I was
the
able.
last thing I want to hear is, are you thinking about
So-
the project?
So to answer your question, is yes. However, what my thought is, the first thing is to go ahead and finish Blackjack and update that, and do some beautiful graphics and make it a more fun game to play. But after that, yes, I mean there's casino games that could be written for OS2 that would be fun to play and nice. You got roulette. There's that out there. There's there's Baccarat, which is sort of popular for people. You've got craps.
Crap.
I mean that's a pretty popular game, and so yeah, I mean.
You could bring back OS2 here, listen.
We have a lot to talk about.
So yeah, I mean you could, and quite frankly, I mean to do a roulette game or whatever, the algorithms I'm using for shuffling cards are pretty extensive and random. That would I think so random and extensive, I'd literally probably be able to get that program to run and get it through gaming control. And approve. I mean, it's really, it does some crazy stuff to get to, because it's really hard. I don't know, anybody on a PC or OS2 has tried to do a random number generator, but there really isn't one.
Right.
I mean, you pass it a seed, whatever that is, it'll repeat that over and over and over. So you'll get the same set in your matrix no matter what you do.
I might have a few stupid ideas that you could do. You could probably use somehow, to some extent, maybe test TFG or SSMD.sys to read out some random memory location so that you get a number from memory somewhere.
I do right now. I do something I can't disclose exactly what it is, but I do have a set of complex algorithms that pick random numbers for random numbers for random numbers, then decide to shuffle a deck of cards, or in the case of poker, it's one deck. In the case of blackjack, it's up to 8 decks. So, but the randomness it's a tough thing, and I've back in the day I did a lot of research on it before I wrote that, and then some of it was updated with the new version of video poker. Some of those random things, because you're depending on the system clock in some cases.
I think libcx
you know?
that we have on OS2 has, I think, what is it called, the seeds, that to get a random number.
Yes.
Linux has a special built-in kernel service, I think, for that. We don't have it, but I think Stephen Levine knows more about it.
I think most of our random number functions just use the timer. I mean the system
Yeah.
clock.
Yeah, because you're probably not needing that type of a random data set per se. Whereas, I mean, so in theory, you could take a deck of cards if they're perfectly shuffled, and shuffle them again and again, and if you shuffle them another time, they come back exactly in the order they started. So the question is then, what really is random? What random is it means that, to me at least, it says that when I shuffle a deck of cards, the first card I pull off the deck has to be random. It has to be an unknown value. When you put time and a system time clock and some other things in there, those are repeatable values. So it's not a random value. So that's why I had to write an algorithm to write a random algorithm.
Yeah.
So maybe.
So
you
that
could-
very, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you could have your program request a 30-year-old floppy be inserted. And then see what you can read.
Yeah, those good old 1.44 megabyte floppies.
I have noticed.
God love them.
I have noticed there one particular card game app that we have that was ported over from Linux. The randomization in it is terrible. You shuffle a deal and it just says streaks of the same suit and so on.
Yeah.
It's supposedly using the system randomization function, but it's terrible.
Well, I'm not gonna lie about it. And when I first started the blackjack program, that was one of the biggest focuses. And because I actually wrote a blackjack program before it was written in OS2, so I had like the engine. Well, that's where the problems came up. Is like you said, you deal a hand, and I get the ace of clubs and the 5 of hearts. Every time I close the program and open it again, ace of clubs, 5 of hearts. That's the first hand. I thought to myself, that's not going to work. So anyway, a lot behind those algorithms and.
If you're looking for a random hardware trick, what you might do, but I need to check it with the developer, is that there's a device driver in OS2 called TestUG, and you might be able to read some port I/O from a random port on the system that you find by the resource manager, and just read the current string there, and then you get basically a random number from some bits in a registry. If you're looking for random.
There's several ways to approach randomness. One of the things you got to do, you want to try to keep the code kind of compact, because the program, an OS2 program, as developers know, have a lot of overhead by themselves, which explains why a function called OS2 is not even called it's not in the program. It's called outside the program to a DLL. Okay, so I mean, you have all these boundaries and things and tied to the operating system with that, but at the same time, to create a true random routine takes a lot of work and time. But there's a lot of ways. I agree. You're right. I mean, you could do it from, like you said, you got some low-level places you can go in there and look at,
I think
random
I think
addresses
that's
and.
partly how Linux does it with its seed function, that it goes out to a random memory address or some ports on the system and just reads a couple of bits out to make it a bit more random, just pick one from the pile.
I just worked on something where I work on this very big banking application, and each row in the database has a unique identifier. Well, it's 8 characters, and there was a problem because it was duplicating sometimes. So it's a company I don't work at anymore, but I work on the product, and they added a 24-character allegedly unique identifier, and I ran their upgrade to install that value. There were duplicates, and they had written this insanely complicated stored procedure to generate unique things. Amazing.
It's harder than you think.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer your question again, yes, I'm looking to do more games, possibly more, casino games. There's some other applications that I kind of have on the drawing board that I might do that shift gears and go away from that, but things that the average person would use, and I think that's where IBM dropped the ball when Microsoft and IBM parted ways. Was Microsoft ran off with this operating system that sits in your house, the kids play games on it, dad comes home from work and watches videos and does spreadsheets, But for Arca OS, it needs to be of course you got the corporate, but it needs to be fun. It needs to be a home-based system and a business-based system. That's my opinion.
I had a manager that bought OS2 because of the chess program.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's out there. I think the chess program is in Arca OS.
he was the national backgammon champion. that guy.
Steven, if you have any kind of documentation that you find useful and you don't see on the internet, I can help you if from IBM to get permission
Oh,
and
good.
put it public. I have done that with several manuals and
That would
several
be great.
several documentation that was only available for sale. Now that is outdated or discontinued, IBM gives permission to
Because
republish
yeah,
it.
I've run into some discrepancies too, and there's no way to find out. Like, I was explaining to Lewis and I think even to Neil that there's a difference apparently between GPI load bitmap and how it handles the coordinates versus WinDraw bitmap.
Mhm.
And so if you look closely at those cards, what's happening is they're just like 1 pixel offset. And I think the difference is, the best I could find in documentation was GPI uses an inclusive coordinate system. WinDraw bitmap uses an inclusive exclusive. What does that mean? That means that the top right corner of the rectangle on WinDraw bitmap is 1 coordinate over. So the challenge is, but it's okay as long as you don't stretch the bitmap or change its size. So if I load, let's say I load a 32 by 32 bitmap with GPI load bitmap, then draw it on the screen, it's fine. But if I stretch that bitmap, then the difference between load bitmap and WinDraw bitmap have a difference on the coordinates. So I'm still looking into trying to figure out, what documentation is out there on that.
But any other documentation that may exist, you just let me know.
But anyway, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
You mean to start at 1-1 instead of 0-0, is that?
No,
That's
it puts 0-0 inside the box, the rectangle, and it puts X right and Y top inside the rectangle.
Oh, okay.
And WinDraw bitmap puts it, the bottom left is inside the rectangle, top right is 1 point outside the rectangle. So that's the difference.
Okay.
But, programmatically, how do you resolve it? I don't know. I've been doing this only 35 years, so.
Steven,
All right.
Another question.
Yes.
You still sell your boxes of games on
Yes.
eBay, right?
Yes, they're up
Yeah.
there.
So it's like all new stock, right?
They're old. They're old new stock.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
those are the original games. They're in the boxes and all that. Now I'm going to phase that out once I release OS2 Video Poker. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I might let those sit there as bundles and be bought. I'm not
I
sure.
think there are people that would love to have like a piece of history buying your
Yes.
box. So I want
Even
the
if
people
you
to know.
want
I wish I would have brought some with me.
Yeah, but-
Maybe you would be interested to sell them, I don't know. Oh, they have a flop piece?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was just
I'm
saying.
sorry?
As long as you can read the one.
I don't- who cares about the floppies? You want
No, they're
to have the
actually
box.
they're
Yeah.
actually on the lovable 1.4 megabyte floppy diskettes in the box. They got. I mean, it's just like they were, whatever it was, 30 years ago.
You
So-
manufacture them now, or are these? are
No,
old
no,
copies?
no. Those are old stock.
And how are sales? Secret or?
Not much really. It's that I'm trying to, and that's why I kind of got interested in Arca OS. I was like, who's out there that's running OS2 today? Are there user groups? Are there people that want to play games on it?
I've seen the
So-
poker you have on eBay on there a long time ago, and I always meant to buy them, and I kept forgetting about them.
Yeah, I should have brought some copies with me, but limited, limited carry-on baggage and everything else these days. But yeah, so anybody else have any questions or comments or?
Perusing through my email, just as a suggestion, if your email's like mine, I suggest emailing you email your source code to yourself, because it'll still be there 30 years from now. I know I've got some emails still out there.
I don't know if I had email then. I think all I had was a dial-up LAN and to the IBM developer network. I could dial into their,
Another thing that
that
you
was
could
it.
do is that I don't know if GitHub has it, but I think for a few dollars a month, you can get a closed source GitHub account and upload it there. At least you've got a copy of it.
I got backups now.
And the thing is that you probably as a developer know that when you're working on code, it's probably interesting to have a revision system so that if you have a bug and it crashes, that you can go back
Oh,
and
yeah.
figure out what
Yeah.
changed.
Then you can see what those characters were.
Yeah. Well, now everything gets backed up to a terabyte hard drive. How's that? That goes away, 30 years from now. It might. You never know. Okay, thank you, everybody.